8.5, obstetrics, pregnancy, and childbirth. Alright, conception. When realized from the ovary, an egg takes 72 hours to reach the uterus, but it must be fertilized within 12 to 24 hours to survive. Therefore, fertilization must normally take place in the distal third of the uterine tube. Okay, between 200 million and 600 million sperm are deposited in the vagina near the cervix. Many are destroyed by the acidity of the vagina or just drain out. Others fail to get through the cervical mucus. Approximately half of the survivors will go up the wrong uterine tube. The journey through the uterus into the uterine tube take about an hour. Some 2,000 to 3,000 sperm reach the egg. Several of those penetrate the outer layers of the egg and clear the path for the one sperm that will penetrate all the way into the egg cytoplasm to fertilize it and produce a zygote. Implementation. While still in the uterine tube, the zygote divides, producing a ball of cells called morula. Within the morula, a fluid-filled cavity develops, and the morula becomes a blastocyst. A week after fertilization, the blastocyst enters the uterine cavity and burrows into the endometrium. Implantation. A group of cells in the blastocyst, the inner cell mass, differentiate into the germ layers and form the embryo. Other cells from the blastocyst, together with endometrial cells, form the placenta. Twins and other multiple births can be produced in two ways. A dizygotic. Twins are produced when two eggs are released by the ovary and fertilized by two separate sperm. They can be of different sexes and are only as genetically similar as the other siblings would be. And then you have a monozygotic. Monozygotic twins are produced when a single egg is fertilized and later two inner cell masses form within a single blastocyst, each producing an embryo. These twins share a single placenta, are genetically identical, are the same sex, and look alike. Blastocyst.
Blastocyst.
The developing embryo during the first 2 weeks.
Conception.
Conception, Latin for something received. Fertilization of the egg by sperm to form a zygote. Dizygotic are twins from two separate zygotes. Fertilize, Latin for make fruitful. To penetrate an oocyte with the sperm so as to impregnate.
Fertilization.
Fertilization is union of a male sperm and female egg.
Implantation.
Implantation is attachment of a fertilized egg to the endometrium.
Monozygotic.
Monozygotic are twins from a single zygote.
Morula.
Morula, Latin for mulberry. Ball of cells formed from divisions of a zygote.
Placenta.
Placenta, Latin, a cake. Organ that allows metabolic interchange between the mother and fetus.
Placental.
Placental is an adjective meaning pertaining to the placenta. And
zygote.
Zygote, Greek for a joined together, cell resulting from the union of the sperm and egg. Development of embryo, fetus, and placenta. Embryo, from week 2 until week 8, is the embryonic period, in which most of the external structures and internal organs of the embryo are formed. Together with the placenta, umbilical cord, amnion, yolk sac, and chorion. The amnion is a fluid-filled sac that protects the embryo. The yolk sac is a small sac arising from the ventral surface of the embryo. It contributes to the formation of the digestive tract and produces blood cells and future sex germ cells. The chorion fills the placenta by penetrating deeply into the endometrium. At the 8th week, all the organ systems are present. The embryo is just over 1 inch long and is now called a fetus. All right, the placenta. The placenta is a disc of tissue that increases in size as pregnancy proceeds. The surface facing the fetus is smooth and gives rise to the umbilical cord, which contains 2 arteries and 1 vein. The surface attached to the uterine wall consists of tree-like structures called chorionic villi. The cells of the villi keep the maternal and fetal circulations largely separate, but they are very thin and allow an exchange of gases, nutrients, and waste products to occur. The functions of the placenta are to transport nutrients such as glucose, amino acids, fatty acids, minerals from mother to fetus. Transport nitrogenous waste such as ammonia, urea, creatine, or creatinine from fetus to mother who can excrete them. Ooh, what? Okay. Transport oxygen from mother to fetus and carbon dioxide from fetus to mother who can excrete it. Transport maternal antibodies to the fetus. Secrete hormones such as estrogen and progesterone and allow material hormones to pass to the fetus. Unfortunately, some undesirable items and many medications can cross the placenta. These include the HIV and rubella viruses and the bacteria that cause syphilis. Alcohol, nicotine, carbon monoxide from smoking, and drugs, heroin, cocaine, all have bad effects on the fetus. The fetal period lasts from the 8th week until birth. At the 8th week, the heart is beating. By the 12th week, the bones have begun to calcify. And the external genitalia can be differentiated as male or female. In the 4th month, downy hair called lanigo appears over the body. In the 5th month, skeletal muscles become active and the baby's movements are felt between 16 and 22 weeks of gestation. A protective substance called vernix caseosa covers the skin. In the 6th and 7th months, weight gain is increased and body fat is deposited. At 38 weeks, the baby is at full term and ready for birth. The length of pregnancy, the gestation, is often considered to be 40 weeks, which is the time for a woman's last menstrual period to birth. However, the woman does not become pregnant until she ovulates 2 weeks after her last period. So gestation is really 38 weeks. Gestation is also divided into trimesters. The first trimester is up to week 12, a second from week 13 to 24, and a third from 25 to birth. A pregnant woman is described as a gravida. A woman in her first pregnancy is a prima gravida. A woman in her second pregnancy is a gravida 2. Okay. Parity relates to the outcome of pregnancy. Deliveries after the 20th week are numbered successively as para, 1, 2, 3, and so on. Okay. Abortus refers to losses of pregnancy before the 20th week. The total abortus and paras equals a woman's gravidity. Words we have learned. Abortion.
Abortion.
Abort is failed at onset, and shin is action process. So spontaneous or induced expulsion of an embryo or a fetus from the uterus. And abortus is a product of abortion. We have amnion. Which is Greek for membrane around fetus. So a membrane around the fetus that contains amniotic fluid. And then we have amniotic as an adjective.
Amniotic.
Pertaining to the amnion.
Chorion.
Chorion is Greek for membrane. It's the fetal membrane that forms the placenta. And then we have an adjective.
Chorionic.
Chorionic, meaning pertaining to the chorion.
Chorionic villus sampling.
Chorionic villus. Villus is Latin for shaggy hair. Vascular process of the embryonic chorion to form the placenta.
Embryo.
Embryo is the Greek for a young one, developing organism from conception into the end of the second month.
Embryonic.
Embryonic means pertaining to the embryo.
Fetus.
Fetus is Latin for offspring, human organism from the end of 8th week after conception to birth.
Fetal.
Fetal is pertaining, it's an adjective pertaining to the fetus.
Gravid.
Gravid is Latin. It's Latin for pregnant. Okay, so it just means pregnant. Gravid.
Gravida.
Gravida means pregnant woman. A pregnant woman.
Prima gravida.
Prima gravida means first pregnancy.
Lanugo.
Lanugo is Latin for wool. It means fine soft hair on the fetal body.
Parity.
Parity is the number of deliveries. Latin for to bear.
Para.
Para is Latin for bring forth. It means abbreviation for the number of deliveries.
Pregnancy.
Pregnancy is a state of being pregnant. Latin with child.
Pregnant.
Pregnant is an adjective for pregnancy. Female containing an embryo or fetus.
Trimester.
Trimester is
Or trimester.
Latin of 3 months duration, 1/3 the length of a full term pregnancy.
Umbilicus.
Umbilicus is Latin for navel.
Umbilicus.
Pit in the abdomen where the umbilical cord entered the fetus.
Umbilical.
Umbilical is an adjective pertaining to the umbilicus or the center of the abdomen.
Vernix cassiosa.
Vernix cassiosa. Vernix is Latin for varnish. Cassiosa is Latin for cheese. So a cheesy substance covering the skin of the fetus.
Villus.
Villus, Latin for shaggy hair. Thin like hair-like projection of a mucous membrane lining or cavity.
Villi.
And villi is plural for villus.
Yolk sac.
So yolk sac, Latin, yolk is Latin for yellow, and sac is Latin for pouch or back. So yolk sac is source of blood cells and future sex cells for the fetus. Okay, pregnancy and childbirth. Hormones of pregnancy. Okay, human, chorionic, gonadotropin, HCG. Is secreted by the blastocysts in the placenta. Its presence in the mother's blood and urine is the basis of laboratory and home pregnancy tests. It can be detected as early as 9 to 10 days after conception. HCG stimulates the growth of the corpus luteum and its production of estrogen and progesterone. Estrogen stimulates the mother's uterus to enlarge and her breasts to increase to twice their normal size. It makes the pelvic joints and ligaments more flexible so that the pelvic outlet widens from childbirth. Progesterone is secreted by the corpus luteum and the placenta. It suppresses further ovulation, prevents menstruation, stimulates the proliferation of the endometrium to support the implementation, and inhibits the contractions of the uterine muscles. Follicle stimulating hormone FSH and luteinizing hormone from the pituitary gland stimulate the maintenance of the corpus luteum and its estrogen and progesterone production. Labor and childbirth. Labor contractions begin 30 minutes apart. They have to be intermittent because each contraction shuts down the maternal blood supply to the placenta and therefore shuts down the blood supply to the fetus. Labor pains are due to ischemia of the myometrium. Labor is divided into 3 stages, each of which is usually longer in a primipara, first-time birth, and in a multipara, 2 or more births. First stage of labor, dilation of the cervix. This is the longest stage. It can take a few hours in a multipara or to more than 1 day in a primipara. Dilation is widening of the cervical canal to the same diameter as the baby's head. At the same time, the wall of the cervix becomes thinner as a process called effacement. During dilation, the fetal membrane rupture and the water break as amniotic fluid is released. Okay, so second stage labor, expulsion of the fetus. As the uterus continues to contract, additional pain is generated by the stretching of the cervix and vagina by the baby's head. When the head reaches the vaginal opening and stretches the vulva, the head is said to be crowning. This process is sometimes helped by the performing of an episiotomy, an incision in the perineum to prevent tearing. Oh, God. Okay. All right, third stage of labor, expulsion of the placenta. After the baby's delivered, the uterus continues to contract. It pushes the placenta off the uterine wall and expels it out of the vagina. This usually takes 5 to 15 minutes. After 30 minutes, the placenta is said to be retained and may have to be removed manually by the obstetrician. Postpartum, the 6 weeks postpartum after birth are called puerperium. The uterus shrinks involution through self-digestion, autolysis of uterine cells by their own lysosomal enzymes. This generates a vaginal discharge called lochia that lasts 10 days. Okay, we've learned autolysis.
Autolysis.
Or autolysis, meaning lysis is destruction, auto is self. Self-destruction of cells by enzymes within the cells.
Crowning.
Crowning is during childbirth when the maximum diameter of the baby's head comes through the vulva ring.
Dilation.
Dilation, stretching or enlarging of an opening.
Effacement.
Effacement, thinning of the cervix during labor.
Episiotomy.
An episiotomy is a surgical incision of the vulva.
Human chorionic gonadotropin.
Human chorionic gonadotropin. Okay, hormone secreted by the blastocyst and the placenta to maintain pregnancy. Well, that's important.
Labor.
Labor, Latin for toil and suffering. Process of expulsion of the fetus.
Lochia.
Lochia is Greek for relating to childbirth. Vaginal discharge following childbirth.
Multipora.
Multipora. Okay. Multipora. A woman who has given birth to 2 or more children.
Postpartum.
Postpartum is after childbirth.
Primipara.
Primipara. I've been saying
Primipara.
primipara. Primipara. A woman who has given birth for the first time.
Puerperium.
And puerperium is a 6-week period after birth, which the uterus involutes.